Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really jumping into something quite unique. It's about weight loss, personal transformation, but with a specific focus on the GLP-1 medications like semaglutide, Ozempic, Wegovy, those names.
Right. And we've got some fascinating source material here. There's this manifesto, you could call it, from Dan Hollis, plus some really personal takes from people who've followed his ideas on things like emotional hunger and, interestingly, graceful failure.
Yeah, graceful failure. That one caught my eye. So it feels like this deep dive isn't just about, take this drug, lose weight.
Not at all. Our mission here really is to unpack this philosophy from Hollis. He basically argues that weight loss, it's way beyond the scale, or even just what the medication does physiologically.
Okay. So what is it then?
He frames it as a really profound human journey, one that needs emotional recalibration, a whole new way of relating to food, and even rethinking what failure means in this context.
Wow, okay. So we're aiming to give you insights into something much more sort of holistic than your average diet plan or prescription pad approach.
Exactly. It goes way beyond that.
So let me ask you, listening right now,
hmm
have you ever felt like, sheer willpower just wasn't cutting it? Or maybe that your relationship with food, your struggles, felt deeper than just being physically hungry?
hmm
If that sounds familiar, then stick with us.
hmm
Because the ideas we're exploring today might genuinely shift how you see those questions.
Yeah, fundamentally.
All right, so let's get into the core of this Hollis philosophy. Where do we start?
Well, a big one, a real cornerstone, is his statement. This is not a drug journey, it's a human one. He's super clear about this.
Okay, so semaglutide, it's acknowledged as powerful, right?
Oh, absolutely. He
Mm.
calls it a powerful tool. But, and this is the key part, its effectiveness really hinges on understanding the deeper impact it has. It's not just about appetite suppression.
How so? What's the deeper impact?
It actually changes how your brain thinks about hunger. Yeah, but also satisfaction, reward, the whole complex system.
Which sounds, well, it sounds potentially amazing, liberating even.
It can be hugely liberating for many. But Hollis is also upfront that it can be terrifyingly disorienting too. Suddenly that
Yeah.
familiar drive or comfort isn't there in the same way.
And that disconnect, that disorientation, that's where the human journey part really kicks in.
Precisely. That's exactly why he emphasizes, no, like, hammers home the need for real support.
Hmm.
Good education, actual human guidance alongside the medication is not just take the shot.
Which leads to another point he makes quite forcefully, doesn't it? About willpower,
Oh yeah, he's very direct. Willpower was never the problem.
which might sound controversial to some people. The whole just try harder narrative is so ingrained.
Totally. But his argument is, look, people have tried willpower over and over again, and for the long haul, it generally doesn't stick.
Why not, according to him?
Because fundamentally, our biology, our emotions, those deep habit loops, they're kind of stacked against pure willpower in this area. It's not a level playing field.
So if willpower isn't the answer, what is?
He flips it. He says what does work is insight-like, really understanding what's going on plus structure, and having the right tools. Tools that actually work with your biology, not against it.
Meeting your biology where it's at. I like that framing. Instead of just trying to bully it into submission.
Exactly. No brute force. It's about understanding and adapting.
Okay, that makes intellectual
Yeah.
sense. But practically speaking, how does someone shift from that lifelong willpower mindset? Does Hollis give examples of these tools or what this more supportive relationship looks like?
He does. He describes it less like a set of rules, eat this, not that, and more about building relationships.
Relationships.
With
yeah.
what? With food, firstly, but also with your own body, and crucially, with the people guiding you through it. He talks about giving someone a map, a guide, and a community that gets it.
Ah, so it's not just information, it's context and connection.
Yes. Moving beyond just a list of do's and don'ts. He stresses starting right, which means starting with alignment, with understanding. Definitely not with shame. And a big part of that is not doing it alone.
Okay, this next bit on emotional hunger.
Hmm.
This really resonates. We tend to think hunger is just, stomach rumbling, need energy. But he draws a really sharp distinction.
He does, and it's quite poetic, actually. He says emotional hunger often sounds like a craving, simple enough, but then he adds, but it's actually a question, a need asking to be seen.
Wow. A need asking to be seen, that shifts everything, doesn't it? It's not about a lack of food, but something else missing.
Exactly. He points out how often we mix things up. We feel tired or lonely, or maybe just overwhelmed, overstimulated, and we interpret that feeling as hunger, so we reach for food. But what we might actually need is, I don't know, connection or comfort or just some quiet clarity.
And he doesn't frame that as being weak or undisciplined?
No, not at all. He calls it wisdom misdirected.
Yeah.
Your body is sending a signal, a need, but you're just misinterpreting the message.
Wisdom misdirected. It makes
Mhm.
you think, right? How many times have I grabbed a snack when maybe what I needed was just 5 minutes outside or a chat with someone?
We all do it. And Hollis gives that pattern a name, a framework, which is powerful in itself.
And this ties into another really profound idea he discusses. What happens when food stops being that go-to coping mechanism? He calls it emotional scaffolding.
Yeah, that's a striking image. The scaffolding that holds you up emotionally. He says, when food stops being your emotional scaffolding, you don't just feel lighter, you feel exposed
Exposed, that sounds vulnerable. Exposed to what?
to all those feelings, basically. The stress, the boredom, the loneliness, the anxiety, whatever it was that you were, maybe unconsciously, using food to sort of numb or manage, suddenly they're right there, front and center, with no buffer.
And that's where the deeper emotional work he talks about becomes non-negotiable, I suppose.
Absolutely crucial. You have to learn new ways to handle those feelings.
So, okay, bringing it back to the medication for a second. Where does semaglutide fit into this emotional landscape? Is it purely physical, or does it play a role here too?
Well, Hollis is clear it doesn't solve the emotional hunger itself. It can't. But its role is really strategic, almost like creating the right conditions.
How so?
He says its main gift is that it makes the biological noise quiet enough to finally hear the emotional signals underneath.
It quiets the physical static so you can tune into the emotional frequency.
That's a great way to put it. He says very directly, semaglutide isn't the solution to emotional eating. It's the silence that lets you find one.
The silence that
Yeah,
lets you
this.
find one. Okay, so it creates a space, an opportunity.
Exactly. An opportunity to rebuild, to work on your identity, your behaviors, your emotional awareness, without the constant pull of those intense, biologically driven cravings confusing things.
So it helps separate true physical hunger from what he calls signal confusion.
Yeah, that's his term. Like your internal wiring gets crossed. You know, you think food when the real need is something else entirely. Semaglutide helps tangle that a bit.
And turns cravings into messengers.
Messengers, yeah.
Yeah.
Signals to be met with curiosity, with insight, not just immediate impulsive action. What is this craving really telling me I need right now?
Fascinating. Okay, so beyond the emotional core, Hollis also talks a lot about sustaining progress, right? And this idea of metabolic pacing.
Yes, super critical. Because he argues that very rapid weight loss, while appealing on the surface, can actually be a trap.
A trap. How?
Well, physiologically, losing weight too quickly can sometimes slow down your metabolism. It can also lead to more muscle loss relative to fat loss. And paradoxically, this can make long-term maintenance harder, potentially worsening outcomes down the line.
So his focus is on a sustainable pace.
Totally. Pacing the nutrition changes, the habit building, the overall progress in a way that your body can actually adapt to and maintain long-term. It's about lasting change, not just a quick fix.
And he has this other almost counterintuitive point. Something like the real work begins after the medication.
Yes. That's huge in his philosophy. It's not just a clever line, it's fundamental.
Why is the work after? Isn't the drug doing the heavy lifting?
It's doing some lifting, definitely. But he explains that without a conscious plan for what comes after, you potentially stop or reduce the medication. Well, the old patterns, the old appetite levels, those familiar emotional triggers, they tend to come back.
Okay, so the medication period is almost like a training ground.
Exactly. A time to build the habits, the awareness, the coping strategies that can actually outlast the injections. You're building something sustainable, integrated into your life, not just relying on the temporary effect of the drug.
Which brings us to maybe his most radical idea, the way he completely reframes failure.
Absolutely. This part is so liberating for many people. His core message here is just crystal clear. There is no shame here, only process.
No shame, only process. That cuts right through so much of the guilt and self-blame that often comes with weight struggles.
Completely. He basically says, look, you're not broken, you're not lazy, you're not undisciplined. What's actually happening is you're working against some powerful biological forces and often cultural messages that were never properly explained to you.
So his goal is to reset both things.
Exactly. He says he helps reset both your body and your expectations of yourself, which is huge.
And how does he define failure then, if it's not well, failure.
He sees it completely differently. For him, failure isn't the end. It's a message.
A message.
Yeah. A moment of feedback. He even says sometimes, it's the most honest conversation you'll ever have with yourself. It's just a data point, something to learn from, adjust from, not a reason to give up or beat yourself up.
So when someone has what looks like a setback or a relapse, it's not them failing.
Not in his view. He explains relapse often isn't some kind of moral failing or betrayal of progress. It's more like the brain just asking for that old familiar rhythm, that old pattern it knows.
The path of least resistance, maybe.
Sort of. And trying to just ignore that signal or white-knuckle your way through it, he says, often leads to a bigger break later on.
He even suggests that sometimes a breakdown points to a problem with the support system.
Yes, he makes that point strongly. It might mean the support needs adjusting or reinforcing, not that the individual themselves is fundamentally weak or incapable. It shifts the focus.
And finding grace in these setbacks.
Yeah.
That seems central too.
It's absolutely critical to his approach. He teaches that setbacks, if you look at them right, are actually sacred moments.
Sacred. That's a strong word.
It is, but he means sacred in the sense that they hold valuable information, deep learning opportunities, if you approach them with curiosity, not judgment.
Curiosity, not judgment. Yeah.
He has this great quote, "The shame isn't in failing. The shame is in pretending you were supposed to be perfect."
Oof. That hits home. We all do that, right? Pretend we should have it all figured out.
Exactly. And he says grace isn't about letting yourself off the hook completely. It's about what you do when you stumble. Do you reach for blame, for shame, or do you reach for a better tool, a better understanding?
And asking yourself those questions.
Right. Like, what story am I telling myself about this failure? Is it a story about being hopeless? Or is it a story about learning something important? And is that story, he asks, helping me become who I want to be?
So it reframes everything towards learning, towards moving forward, even when you trip up, failing forward.
Precisely. Failing forward. That captures it perfectly.
Wow. Okay, this has been, well, quite a journey just talking through it. Dan Hollis's approach really does redefine the whole weight loss narrative, doesn't it?
It really does. It takes it away from just being this battle of willpower or this reliance on a medication alone and turns it into this much deeper exploration of our biology, yeah, but also our emotions, our history, our relationship with ourselves.
It transforms it from just a physical challenge into, well, like he says, a human journey.
Yeah.
A journey of self-discovery almost.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive today, here's maybe something to chew on, something to take with you.
Okay.
Think about these core ideas we've discussed. Viewing failure as feedback, not an endpoint. Understanding emotional hunger as a question from your body or your mind. Recognizing that sometimes the real work begins after you think you found the solution.
Powerful concepts.
How might those principles apply not just to weight or health, but to other areas of your life? You know, areas where you're looking to make real, lasting change.
Yeah.
Career, relationships, personal growth.
Yeah. How would things shift?
What if we started approaching all our efforts at growth and change as these complex, messy, fundamentally human journeys, rather than just technical problems to be solved? Something to think about.